Hey, I'm James from Smoking Dead Barbecue, and if you've been following the channel for a while, you know I love testing the value option versus the name brand option, often costing significantly more money to find out, is that name brand always worth it? So today's challenge, I'm going to be putting my ChefsTemp Finaltouch X10 against my Thermapens to find out which is best for the backyard barbecue fan. Marketing teams would just love it if we would buy into the illusion that spending more money means a better result every time. But this just isn't true. The Big Joe Series 1 that I bought costing nearly half as much as off camera here, my Big Joe Series 3 can turn out nearly as good of a result at half the price. I went even further and tested my Big Joe Series 3 against the Char Griller Acorn, which I can have 7 acorns for the price of one Big Joe 3. And while the Big Joe 3 had some advantages, particularly in performance and utility, not to the degree of 7 times more money. On the other hand, behind me here is my La Piazza Piccolo wood-fired oven. I put this through its paces over the last year against things like the Solo Stove, the Fire Pie versus the oven versus my Dojo and the Kamado Joe accessory. And this is one where performance, you do get what you pay for in terms of a wood-fired oven has some performance and characteristics. And after a year of putting it through its paces, I'm glad that I bought it. Same is true with my offset. You can't see behind me here, but I wanted to know before doubling down and getting a larger Generation 2 offset from Smoke North is the one that I landed on. I went and bought the budget-friendly option at clearance last year at Lowe's, an Oklahoma Joe's Highland. And while I was able to significantly improve the performance, get incredibly close for the results, really the decider here is just the ease of use, where the larger offset semi-insulated firebox, I can build a fire, go away for an hour versus the Oklahoma Joe. By the time that I manage the splits down to the right size to get good, clean combustion, I'm interacting with the fire every 15 or 20 minutes or so. So as we've experimented and learned, sometimes the budget-friendly option can perform just as well as the bigger ticket item, and other times those extra little flourishes that cost a little bit more are worth it, which is why I've landed on some of those purchases like my offset, or behind me here my Grill Blazer grill gun. This costs way more than fire starters or things like that, but being able to use my grill midweek if I want to do a family dinner and have it up to cooking, I've timed it and we're under 20 minutes, even in cold weather, to go from cold to nice clean smoke for cooking. These things make a lot of sense for me, and I'm happy to invest when I know there's a clear performance benefit. So speaking of clear performance benefit, today we're going to be testing, is there a clear performance benefit for spending roughly 30% more on something like a Thermoworks Thermapen versus the ChefsTemp X10? So as you can tell, I'm a fan of my Thermoworks Thermapens, and I have bought and paid for all 3 of these. I wasn't provided any of them from Thermoworks. These are just ones that we've picked up over time, mostly because Sarah kept stealing one, so I got one for outdoors. And then later on, the IR, which is based on the same Thermapen Classic, but it added some IR capabilities. So when companies like ChefsTemp come along claiming to offer the same great performance as an industry leader, this is not a challenge that I take lightly, which is why I like to put a product through its paces for at least about 6 months. And that's exactly what I've done. I picked this up in Black Friday of last year in 2022, and it now has 6 months of real world experience. And I'm going to share what I've learned, as there's a couple interesting things along the way. But first, I want to get a little bit of data behind this, so it's not just my opinion and observations over 6 months. So I'm going to do the ice bucket challenge, the hot water challenge, and since I've got a brisket cooking, we can do a food test as well to replicate a real world cooking scenario to help answer the question, is it worth saving a couple bucks or going for the name brand? So there can actually be a little bit of variability even between brands. So I have my 3 Thermapens here. Let me just show you the response and the slight difference in readings. So we've got 35, 35, and 36. So now 36, 36, 35. So these 2 are a match. So let me just use those as a comparison against our ChefsTemp X10. So it looks like my IR and the ChefsTemp, let me just freeze the ChefsTemp so I can actually see that, 35.7 versus 36. So one of the advantages of the ChefsTemp X10 is that it has this decimal place as well as this hold feature, so I can continue to see what temperature we're at. But any Thermapen can actually do this. Let me show you how to get a decimal, and then let's compare the 2 decimal ratings. But while I do that, let's move our ice bucket over to the heating plate here and start to bring this up to a boil so we can check a higher temperature. Just remove this screw here, remove our end cap here, and hopefully you can see that on camera, but we have a menu button as well as our settings button. It's really small print on there, but if I go menu, that's if I wanted to calibrate. If I go here, that's 1 degree. I hit the option, now it's on 0.1 degree, and then the 360 display and a 30-second timer. So go end. So now, just like that, we have unlocked the decimal place rating. So let's put this back together and compare the two now that we have the same readings with decimal places. Let's check on some food, as I actually have 2 briskets that I'm doing for a fat cap up versus a fat cap down experiment. Make sure you got the notification bell on so you're alerted when that comes out, but let's go in. Try not to touch. 202.1 versus 202.3.4. I think that's about as close as I can hold them together, and we are getting the same temperature. Now you might wonder, why have a probe like this even to begin with when you have other probes like I'm using here today for my meter? And that is to be able to do exactly what we're doing right here, which is spot check and see how we're doing for probe feel. That is a really important part, because right here I can still feel we're a little bit tight on the point end of our brisket. That needs just a little bit more time, whereas down here on our flat, I'm getting that exact fall through room temperature feel that you want. Let's check our other one here. Feels a little tighter. Yeah, that's definitely tighter. So this one's going to be a little bit further behind, but let's go check in a boiling water test now. Okay, we've got a gentle boil on our water. Let's try and go to about the same depth. We are seeing the exact same temperatures. Okay, let's get these out, especially with my Thermapen Classic, as unlike the X10, it's not waterproof, whereas this is IP67 and can be submerged for a while, whereas this one you don't want to leave out in the rain. So as we saw in the test, not even the Thermapens agree with each other in ice, cold water, as well as hot water. So I picked the sort of the leading two that we're matching in order to do our X10 comparison, and we're getting the same results. So as far as I can tell, in ice, hot water, and food, there is no difference in terms of accuracy between these probes. So if there's no difference in accuracy, which is a good thing, I think that's what exactly your temperature probe should do, is give you good, accurate information. What are some other deciding factors? Well, one I mentioned earlier, which is water resistance. And so again, there's differing levels of water resistance on differing Thermapens. If you were to look at the Thermapen 1 versus the Classic is not waterproof, whereas the Thermapen 1 has an IP67 rating, which means it could be submerged in about 1 meter of water for 30 minutes, which is the same rating that the X10 has. So if you're comparing against the Thermapen Classic, for example, the waterproof rating is far superior on the X10. That would be a decider. The other difference can be in the standard warranty. So depending on some of the older probes, Thermoworks has warranties ranging sort of from 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6 years, depending on their exact model. The top of the line Thermapen 1 comes with a 5-year warranty, whereas some of the older models like my IR or the Classic have lesser warranties. And so that, again, we're sort of landing in the middle. The ChefsTemp X10 comes with a 3-year warranty. Next, let's talk pricing. So I'm going to just use 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year pricing, not the special Black Friday sales, as I have no idea what either company is up to for any other holiday sales. But the X10 comes in everyday price below something like the Classic and below the one by about 20% or so. Over time, I've been an affiliate in both programs, but the one that I like about the ChefsTemp program is it actually offers you a savings. So Thermoworks gives me a link that you can buy, and thank you for all of you who do choose to support anything down in the links below. That goes a long way to helping the channel. But the one advantage of the ChefsTemp program is it offers you a save 15%. They both offer the same little thank you to me, so it's not really a deciding factor in terms of the thank you from either company, but there is a benefit for you, and that 15% code gets you close to a 30% discount over a comparable Thermapen. Some of the other features that I like, you can even see here, is the auto-rotating display, the large, easy-to-read numbers. That has been really handy, particularly in sort of all differing levels of light. I've never had a problem reading my Thermapen or any of my Thermapens, but this is just easier to read. The other advantage that I do notice a lot, and I used and even showed it there, which is the hold feature. So if I'm reaching into the back of my offset trying to get a probe feel on ribs or something like that, I can hit the hold button, pull it out, and actually see what it is and not have the temperature drop like you even saw earlier in the ice challenge or the hot water challenge, where the minute that we pull the probe out of whatever it is we're probing, I can't go back and see what it was. The other thing that I really like here is the rotation. So if you look at how the Thermapens open up, we go basically 180 degrees to straight up and down. That's our maximum sort of workable range. But on the X10, we have 270 degrees. So we can go sort of all the way over from one side to the other side, and just again, depending on what type of pit you're reaching into and what type of angle you're trying to get to, comes in handier than you might think. Speaking of handy, this hook for storage is incredibly useful. So if you're not in a table configuration like I am and you're using your cart has those little hooks that we can hang this off of out of the way and make sure that it's easily accessible your entire cook. Not that I'm going to ever store it on a hot grill that's running, but you can even see the magnetic backing allows you to place this everywhere. So on my offset, I have lots of metal to work with versus ceramic Kamados, and being able to just have that stuck anywhere if you don't have a hook comes in incredibly handy as well. So 6 months in, I'm going to give the ChefsTemp X10 the 2 thumbs up rating, similarly to my Big Joe Series 1 and other value-friendly options that cost less than the most expensive option in the category, another name brand, and provide the same or similar enough performance that you and I can't tell the difference. I'm going to give this my 2 thumbs up rating. I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you'd like to hang out and ask any questions one-on-one or any questions about these products that I tested today, be sure to check out my members live. I go live once a month and we can interact a little bit more real time than these pre-recorded sessions. That's it for today though. I'm James from Smoky Dad Barbecue signing off, and remember, don't be afraid to fire it up.